You're listening to Kayak Flyer with your host, Sean. Tonight, we're brought to you by Tennessee Trailers, OutdoorAdventureTrailers.com. Simply the best way to get your kayak to and from the water. Bajuco Flats Flyco.
Simply the best. Custom-made fly rods on the market. Always built to order just the way you want it. Find Bajuco Flats Flyco on Instagram or Facebook.
Thinking that a class act like us are going to have a real voiceover guy do that intro, and every week I am thoroughly let down.
We're just constantly consistent is what we are. We keep talking.
Yeah, that we are.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't, you know what? I almost wouldn't say that because last week we had Ben Tutt, and that's a consistently bad show. This week we've got a great guest, a great set of guests. We've got Gretchen and Al Beatty. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sean and Adam. We're very pleased to be with you.
Hi.
Well, we're glad you guys decided to, step out of the limelight and all the fancy circles you guys run in and schlub with us for an hour. So, wanted to say, and I guess we better say thanks to Rick for getting you on the show, getting you in touch with us.
Yeah, give him a plug. He's a good guy. He's got a good product.
We plugged the bejesus out of him last episode because Ben Tutt was talking about a tool caddy, and we Oasis benched it all for like 30 or 40 times. We talked about Rick at Oasis benches. If you guys are looking for a great way for keep your tools in your desk organized, or if you're even thinking about making dubbing brushes, man, his new dubbing table is amazing. And you're not going to don't be like me and try to make one at home and DIY and make something janky that never works and you already spent $25. Buy a good dubbing table. Trust me, it's worth it.
We're going to show you just how much we think of Rick Weisberg. I have a caddy right here by my computer. I can't move it because it's in the way of the computer, but Gretchen can get to hers. And we have two of these around here, just so you can see that we actually have the caddy with all the tools. And we are live because half of them are on the floor now.
Well, that's what I was talking about with Ben was I never buy a lot of different color threads, but now that I've got this thing, I feel like I have to fill it up. So I'm buying more threads and wires and different colors than I've ever had.
Yeah, it's we do buy just about every color there is. As commercial tires, the colors that are requested never ceases to amaze us.
I could only imagine.
Yeah, when I first started tying commercial 60 plus years ago, it was black or black. That was the two colors that you tied with.
Yeah.
And for Gretchen, it was the same thing, except she didn't even use a vise.
Yeah,
vise. She didn't use a bobbin. Yeah.
Didn't use a bobbin.
Yeah, tell them about your first tying experiences.
Oh well, my dad had a Singer Trout sewing machine that he converted to a sewing machine to a fly tying vise. So you had a rotary vise.
So you used your feet to tie.
And he was a plumber, so all of the fittings were plumber fittings. And we didn't use bobbins. We just had a nail on the side of the table. So when you wanted to free your hands up, you just wrapped the thread around the nail. And we did have tweezers and scissors. And that was it.
That was it. We wrote a book, 15 years ago, we wrote a book called Rotary Tying Techniques. And up to that time, I had done a lot of rotary tying, but nothing like that. And the first chapter was a history, and then talking about her father and this rotary vise that was, by the way, used a lot throughout the West for commercial tires at that time. But anyway, the treadle sewing machine vise, that was the first chapter in the book, and it took me a year to write it because I couldn't make the damn thing go. I mean, as soon as I take my feet, hey, listen, guys, chuckle away. You tie flies and you run it around the vise and all this stuff. Try doing it with your feet. Hey, let me tell you what. Anyhow, that's we're kind of getting off the subject of today's fly tying, but that's part of the history that's from her family and somewhat from mine as well, but in a different light.
So then when I started tying with Al, I had to learn a whole new method of tying. First of all, the vise came out from the opposite direction. I hadn't used a bobbin, a whip finish. I mean, it was a whole, I kept saying, what do you need all these tools for?
She said, what are all these tools? What is this thing that was holding a spool of thread? Now, you guys know it's a bobbin, but anyway.
So now I can't do without all my tools, as you saw.
Yeah, and that's just a small amount. So you've got several multi-drawer cabinets full of stuff. So
yeah, you can tell by the way you had that filled up, and then everything behind you all as well on the video camera there. You can see you've got anything and everything you could possibly imagine to tie up whatever's needed.
Yeah.
As an example, you'll see a hide hanging on the cabinet doors back there. Well, when we just wrote the most recent book, The Art of the Weave, one of the flies was something that had been in vogue from the 20s until the early 70s, but it had really gone out of vogue more towards the end of the 50s. And it was called the Potts fly, and it was a sandy mite and all of those, and it was very popular in Montana. You didn't fish in Montana if you didn't have that particular fly. And they're made out of a woven hackle and woven out of Chinese badger. I didn't have any Chinese badger. So I had a heck of a time because this was just prior to COVID. Anyway, I ordered a skin from China, and it took me forever to get the darn thing. It's
there it is.
But anyway, just so you know, if any of you ever have used the old soap and brush routine to shave, I can see, Sean, you don't shave, so you probably don't have to worry about that. But anyway, you stir the stuff up with this soap. Well, that's made out of Chinese badger. In case you're wondering, that brush is made out of Chinese badger.
Yeah, my dad had one of those.
Yeah, well, I still do. I use it sometimes. Yeah. I use the electric razor now because I'm getting so old and fumbly. I have to be careful.
Besides, he can do his hair at the same time.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, when I was in high school, I parted my hair in the middle. I still do. Anyway,
all the way down the middle.
We don't know about Adam's hair because he's got this crazy cap that looks like alfalfa's cap on.
You guys are all you're knocking on my hat, but I love my Wade Deep hat. This is one of my favorite hats that I've ever owned. It's fantastic.
Wait.
Got a spot where you can put your flies on right here, so when you're out on the water, you don't have to dig into your vest or anything.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's it, because I have ruined more fly boxes by putting a wet fly in there and then forgetting that it was wet. Oh. And that's a nightmare. That's an absolute nightmare.
You don't ruin the fly box so much, but boy, it sure screws up the flies.
Yeah, the flies.
People messing up somebody's flies.
Oh, gee. Okay, tell the story. Let's get the embarrassment out of the way right now.
My first order. I worked for a phone company and I was on a temporary assignment. So we set up a tying table for me in my little apartment. And at night I would go back and tie flies. And so I ordered a bunch of pheasant rump and all this stuff. And I did this order and I was so proud of it. And I take it home and show Al my order. He said, did you nuke those feathers? Are you sure there's no bugs in there? And I go, well, no.
Yeah.
So he puts my flies in the microwave.
What a dumb thing. Oh, what a dumb thing. They come apart, guys. Let me clue you in. They come up, they go, woof, just like that. As all the feathers come apart because the hooks get hot. Oh, just chuck it away, guys. Hey, let me tell you what, all your audience out there, whatever you do, if there's a mistake that's been made, we have. And when we speak about something and we show you a tip or a trick in fly tying, we made the mistake. We didn't just have somebody show it to us. So
that's firsthand experience talking.
We redo that order.
Yeah, we that order was due to go to the shop the next day, so we tied all night.
Oh Lord,
to retie it. But now, just to give a little background, to stick up for myself a little bit, I had just lost a 20-year supply of materials to bugs, and it's the only time it's happened. And we've been very careful since. So I was being overly cautious, and so cautious we had to do a bunch of extra work.
I was so impressed.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Would you? Then that leads me to a question. I like some of my materials that I get naturally, like squirrel dubbing and things like that. I freeze them. Should I be microwaving them?
We freeze them, let them thaw out for 3 days, run them for 30 seconds in the microwave. They go back into the freezer for another couple weeks, come out, and then they come into inventory in some of those mothballs that don't have an odor to them. You know what I'm talking about?
New stuff that they have. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, because I froze mine for a couple of weeks, and I took it out and let it sit, come up to room temperature, and then I froze it again. So I'll need to pull it out and microwave it then.
Well,
that's just a little caution.
That's probably a little paranoid on our part, but since that time and when we first got together, when we ruined our first order of flies, we've not had any bug problems. But you know, I was a marketing director for Whiting Farms, from 2000 to 2000 and early 2003, and it's Whiting Farms is the premier hackle producers in the world. And bugs were a constant problem, even as fast as we had product moving through the system where we were. It was an everyday search for bugs because they were there.
You know, the one thing, and I don't know how you judge, like birds, but I know a lot of guys use wild pheasant. I've got some wild pheasant that I've gotten, I found a pair of golden peacocks, a breeding pair, for $100 the other day.
Wow.
And I figured they were worth that just for the feathers on them.
Yep.
But the idea of how you would take the pheasant from pheasant to hackle, I'm blown away on how you would do that without having a bug problem.
It's the whole thing, the time in Whiting Farms, I could probably talk an hour on that. It was just a very special time in our lives. We had both handled feathers for the better part of 40 years by the time we went there. And then we learned from a guy with a PhD, an absolute genius on birds and growing feathers, why the things that we knew we had to have in a feather, how you got it.
When you would go into some of the barns, you had to step in decontaminate stuff with your shoes. And there was part of the farm that even as his wife, I couldn't go to.
There was a shower in, shower out facility.
And they wouldn't let me go there. That was way off up in the hills, far, far away, so that if anything happened to the birds at the other two farms, then they had the DNA stream.
Yeah, they had the gene pool. They had the gene pool saved for posterity, if you will.
But that farm is just an amazing place.
Phenomenal.
Tom is. His life is birds from the time he was a kid. He's loved chickens, and he knows how to handle them, what to do with them, how to make their legs longer.
Oh, geez. Yeah, that's a story. My first week on the job, I'm their new marketing director, right? And they said, your goal, or the first objective we'd like you to fill, is we want to add 150 customers to our customer base. That means 150 fly shops or similar. I said, okay. Well, the best way to add some people is to call a few that are our customers. Are there any problems? And then start calling the ones I know are on the list. So I called a few people, and they were having trouble at that time. The birds' feathers were growing so long that when they walked around the cages, it tore off the saddle tips. Yeah. And he said, oh, darn, well, that looks bad. We'll just cut them off with the scissors before we send them out to the customer. Boy, did I hear about that. They did not like that at all, the cut off feathers in the package, even though it was still a 14-inch long, perfectly good dry fly feather. Didn't like it. Customers didn't like it. And so I told Tom, I said, Tom, this is probably the biggest complaint I've got today talking with customers. Now he says, that cutting them off didn't work. I'll just grow the legs longer. I was there. 16 months later, the legs were longer and the problem was fixed.
That's incredible.
That's the kind of a genius you're dealing with in his abilities. But here we are off talking about feathers. But anyway, that was an incredible time in our life.
To get back to bugs, we don't have just a few feathers here. We have a wall full of feathers that
Yeah.
it would probably be equal or better than a lot of fly shops. So when it comes to bugs, we really do have to be careful.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you've got a large setup, I mean, even if you're the average guy and you've got 2 or 3 capes, you know, because capes are not cheap.
Right.
No.
You have $500 in inventory right there in 3 or 4 capes. Easy.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, one of the flies I love to tie, I think it's the American hen hackle is what I use from whiting. And I love tying a feather game changer. But even that, which you would think would be, I don't want to call it a trash feather, but I mean, there's not, it's not a size 16 dry fly, you know, hackle, but you know, they're still $25-$30, but the quality is excellent. You know, I mean, that's
So
the thing
you love tying that fly because you like tying it or you like fishing it?
Honestly, I like tying it more than I like fishing it. I've not caught a whole lot of fish on it. It
Isn't
looks
that fun?
great in the water. It looks absolutely fabulous in the water, but I don't have enough confidence to fish it that often. So
Isn't
it's
it
not a
amazing?
confidence fly.
It's amazing the 2 or 3 flies in our inventory of thousands that are always the go-to flies. And you know what? They always produce fish. And why? Key word that you just said in that sentence, last sentence you said was confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We talk a lot on here. We just had a young man from New Jersey, and basically the same flies that are his go-to flies are the same as mine and Adam's, except for maybe one variation.
Yeah.
And he said, I feel confident about it. I throw it because I know I've caught fish on it before. And I've got flies here that I've tied that I've never fished that pattern, and I've got probably 100 of them that I've tied. Giving them to friends. I mean, never fished them. Probably won't ever fish them. You know?
Fish with a Renegade?
Huh?
Do you use a Renegade?
I've caught fish with a Renegade, but I don't tie a Renegade. I'm just now getting down to midges that are size 16. I don't want to go down to like a size 18 Renegade. They don't make magnifying glasses big enough for that.
We hate to admit it because we are pretty well known for tying hairwing flies, and we fish a lot of hairwing flies, but our number one fly is a Renegade. In fact, we had a book outlined at one time and decided that would never be able to sell it to anybody. Is that the whole book was going to be a dozen chapters of Renegades. Saltwater Renegade, steelhead Renegade, because we caught on Renegades in different sizes and styles all over the world in every kind of water.
Renegade.
Not my favorite to tie. My favorite to tie is a Royal Wolf. I love tying Royal Wolves.
And she's good at it.
Yeah. Renegade. To go back real quick to the Renegade, though, I mean, I've caught fish on it. It's like so many of the great flies. It really looks like everything and nothing all at once.
Exactly.
And again, it's a fly that a lot of guys learn to tie because it's relatively simple to tie if you can see it. I know Adam's tied some before.
Sure, yeah.
You know, it's a great fly. It works, it produces, and it's a guide fly. There's not a lot of money tied up in it. And these guide flies seem to really work. And then you get folks like you guys who make some really beautiful flies. You know, I mean,
well, we have one of our books that we wrote was called Easy Trout Flies, and it's all those guide flies in the days when I was guiding that were the real producers, because the stuff we tie for the shop is not always the stuff we fish with on the river.
Yeah,
we have cousins of the same shop. As an example, we sell thousands and thousands of hairwing humpies to fly shops. The ones we fish with are out of our Easy Trout Flies book, and they're made out of poly yarn.
Yeah.
You know,
that's one of my favorite ways to tie the humpy is with the poly yarn, because it's easy to tie, it's easy to see when you're fishing it, and it just floats really well. That's one of my favorites.
It dries out one back cast and it's dry, never becomes waterlogged. It's a guide, as a working guide. The people that would get into my boat, probably 5% were skilled fishers, and the other 95% had a hard time getting the fly out of the boat. And so they could sink a fly better than anybody going, to that 95% that didn't know what they were doing. And that was one of the things about the poly humpy is didn't make any difference if they could even cast it out of the water, get it out of the water and back in the water. It was dried out and floating again.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and Adam is our resident trout fly tyer. So he'll probably have a lot more trout fly questions. I'm just now starting to tie trout flies again after 20
so
years
what
of
is your
tying
favorite?
flies.
So okay, I got two questions. One for Sean and one for Adam. I'll start with you, Adam. What is your favorite trout fly? What is your favorite fly, period?
To fish or to tie or both?
I don't care. You either or, and you tell me why.
I like tying a pheasant tail, like a pheasant tailed nymph. And that also
Awesome.
probably is my favorite to fish with. That's one of the most. It's easy to tie, but I really enjoy those as well, and they typically produce for me. Like Sean said, he's our smallmouth guy. He likes to tie the bigger streamers. I started out tying trout flies, just not knowing anything else or anything different. So tying on like a 16, an 18, and a 20, I enjoy that challenge of how small that is and the detail you have to provide to that. And then when you get into the bigger things, the bait fish patterns or whatnot, I feel like when I'm, I've got my bobbin and I'm tying like on let's say a size 2, I feel like I'm like having to wrestle the whole bobbin around because I'm so used to tying so small. I feel like I've got a whole arm workout when I'm tying a bigger fly. So, but I enjoy the pheasant tail because it produces and it's fun to tie.
Awesome.
For me, my favorite one to tie, it's going to be the feather game changer, and anything that's a bait fish pattern that I'm using, the Congo hair from Fly Tires Dungeon. That guy has a great product.
Sure does.
He just sent me some 5/0 jig hooks the other day.
Oh my! Wow.
Yeah. I don't have a vise that'll hold them, so I'm gonna manufacture a vise with a pair of ice grips.
Ice grips.
Go back to that sewing machine.
Yeah.
But I like tying the bait fish on a worm hook with the weighted so the points up to make it weedless. And I don't know why, but there's just something about I've got this little airbrush that sprays markers instead of paint.
Right.
And I've fallen in love with spraying these white cylinders and making the Krebs popper. I've fallen in love with just the painting of that and making them all look different and then chopping them up and putting them in. And there's just something, and they catch fish.
Well,
but they're fun. They're fun to tie.
Of course they do. When you mentioned the vice grips, I got my first fly tying kit for a Christmas presents when I was 14. And I immediately started tying flies commercially because I needed to make money because I couldn't afford to buy a fly rod. So I had a fly tying kit. I tied flies commercially for a year before I had enough money to get the fly rod. Well, it was one of these cheap vices. You know the kind, they have a little lever that goes up and down and that's it. Well, it broke in the first week. And my dad said, don't worry about it. I've got just a thing for you. And he took and welded a 3/8 rod onto a vice grips. And that was my first vice that I tied with for years. I still got it somewhere around. That's why I was looking up and around. I guess it's put away, but I had it around here someplace. And so it works really well.
I was talking with Ben about this. I don't know if it was on air or off air. And I think he told me that Lefty's original vice grip vice is in like the Fly Fishing Hall of Fame.
It is.
Which was a vice grip welded to a piece of metal.
That's exactly what it was. Yep. All of a sudden I've hit a stop point. I don't know. I ran out of things to talk about. I didn't run out of things to talk about. I'll just have to get rewound here.
Yeah. Well, having been in the industry, and we've got to give you a shout out because Adam, I don't know who lives closer to where Al was born.
All right.
Fort Smith, Arkansas. That's about 5.5 hours from me.
I don't even know, to be honest with you. From where I'm in Kansas City, so I'm
straight. It's just straight down for you.
Yeah. I bet you are, Sean. I bet you're closer than I am.
Maybe by a half an hour, if that.
Yeah.
I'm either a half hour closer or a half hour farther. It's not much difference. But how old were you when you left Fort Smith? Can I ask?
I was born during the war, and probably somewhere's around less than 2 years old. And
so you didn't get to do any fishing down there. You didn't do any
I've
fishing
done
down
fishing
there
down there, but it's as an adult.
as an
No,
adult.
I was a war baby, and when my dad was sent to the Philippines during the war, my mother went back home to Iowa, where her parents were, and then when my dad got out of the army at the end of the war, he moved to Iowa and bought a dairy farm, and I was raised on a dairy farm.
Yeah.
Okay. What part of Iowa?
What part of Iowa? In the northwest portion, little town nobody's ever heard of, about 70 miles from Sioux City. So that would give you the general area. Cherokee, maybe?
Was there a lot of fishing up there? Because I know the driftless area. My Iowa is driftless area,
well,
corn and dairy. That's what I know about Iowa.
That's what Iowa is corn.
Tell them about your effort to make a fishing pond.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I got this grand plan when I was a kid, between milking cows in the morning and milking cows at night, 7 days a week. I decided that I wanted to have a fishing pond, and there was this creek that ran from the neighbors over into our pasture. So I built this dam, and I backed it up across the road and into the neighbors, and I had a beautiful fishing pond. And boy, it really ticked off the neighbors because it flooded his yard. So, and man, I worked my butt off to build this doggone pond. I carried big rocks in and built a dam and the whole thing. And I was just heartbroken when I had to tear it apart. But anyhow, as a kid on a dairy farm, working 7 days a week, I mean, you milk cows at 4 in the morning and 4 at night, 7 days a week. Our idea of a day off was to go fishing from 12 o'clock till 2 o'clock on Sunday. Yeah, that was a day. That was a day off, because you had to be back to milk cows. It's I think there's once that I actually got a full day off in all the 15 years that I lived on the dairy farm, and that was when a neighbor came and did our milking for us, and we went off somewhere else. It wasn't fishing, but it was on the first time I had a full day off.
Yeah, I guess it'd be my wife's grandfather owned a dairy farm, and my mother-in-law will talk about it didn't matter if it was Christmas. You were up at 4 a.m. and you were milking cows.
Absolutely.
It didn't matter if you were hungover from the night before. You got up and you were milking cows.
That is so true. I got out I went from the dairy farm and moved to California in high school and continued to work through high school. My goal was to be a working cowboy. I was just from a little short kid on up, I was going to be a cowboy. So when I got out of college, that's what I did, is I became a working cowboy. So again, I was back in the agriculture business 7 days a week. I enjoyed the heck out of the work, but there was no such thing as a day off. And so I finally decided that starving to death as a cowboy wasn't a very good thing to do. So I looked around, and a friend says, the telephone company's hiring people. Maybe you could get on there. And I said, well, she says, you're in good shape. You should be able to climb poles and all that fine. I said, great. So I went and applied to the phone company, and I got on. Just
to add, he was also riding bulls and riding bareback at rodeo.
Oh, that's a different story.
No big deal.
Anyway,
No.
So anyway, I go to the telephone company school to learn how to be alignment and all that kind of stuff. My first day on the job out of school, I'm standing here in the crew room waiting for the boss to come out and give us the words of wisdom. And he comes out with another guy, and he says, this is the union steward. I've been in a meeting with him. I'm sorry, guys, but I have to put you on a forced 5-10 work week. Everybody just gets the cry and the blues and everything. And I looked around and I said to myself, what in the hell am I going to do with all this time off? So I became the overtime king. George, you want to go to that football game with your kids? Hey, I'll work for you. And I was back to working 7 days a week again because I didn't know anything better,
Right. Yeah.
Anyhow.
Gretchen, I don't want to be rude, but you didn't meet him because you were a buckle bunny, did you?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I met him at the telephone company.
Oh, okay. I want to make sure you weren't a rodeo groupie.
I was a human resource manager who tried to keep him under control. It's impossible.
I tell you what, I wouldn't want to be the one filling out his insurance paperwork.
Yeah, well, he's changed a lot.
I have to. It takes a half an hour to get out of the bed in the morning because my youth, when you're young, you know everything. And when you do really know everything, it's too late.
Yeah. I always like to say it's not the years, it's the mileage.
Yeah.
However, as a kid, I wanted to be a cowgirl, but I lived in Boise. Well, we lived in Wyoming part of the time and then in Boise, but there was no way I was going to get to have a horse, so I had to give up my dream. The only time I got to ride horses is when I lived in Wyoming, and my friend's father had a dude ranch at Jenny Lake, so in Jackson in the park. So I got to ride those horses, but that was it.
Yeah.
So I'm not a cowgirl.
I would love to talk to somebody that owns a dude ranch and guides fly fishing just to see how much crossover there is.
Having been in both places, because I worked as a horse wrangler on one of the things was dudes in Yosemite Park. So it's not
Lord.
quite a ranch, but it's the same kind of a deal. So let me tell you what, wrangling people, whether it's dudes on horses or in drift boats, is the same thing. It's, your job as a guide is not fishing. Your job as a guide is making sure the customer has a good time, knows how to fish. You're also looking out for the fact you're getting too much sun on you. You need to put some sunscreen on. You are looking out for their well-being so they can enjoy their experience.
Yeah.
And so in essence, it's kind of a babysitting, but that isn't what I'm trying to say. It's just your job is to make sure that they have a good experience. And that don't mean you get to do any fishing.
Right. And it's like if you're trying to get somebody out on a horse, I know we had a horse when I was a kid. My grandfather got a horse I think mainly for my 3 other cousins because I wanted nothing to do with anything that could think for itself. I got rid of that horse and got a motorcycle as fast as I could.
Wow.
But the
It was a lot
horse,
safer, huh?
honestly, compared to that horse, yeah, I couldn't even hunt squirrels without it chasing me through the woods.
Wait a minute, I got to hear about this. Okay, chasing you through the woods.
This horse, it liked my 3 cousins, and my sister could ride this thing bareback with just hop on it and grab it by the mane and make it go anywhere she wanted it to go. The horse loved her. I could feed the horse. I could touch the horse if I was on the other side of the fence. I'd be out deer hunting, or not deer hunting, but squirrel hunting, walking through the woods, and I would just hear this trampling, and that thing would chase me until I dove through the fence. It didn't matter what I was doing. Well, I'd tie him up up at the barn. I'd tie him up. I'd put the bridle on him and tie him off. And I'd go down, and by God, my sister would come down, unhook him, and he'd find me in the woods and chase me off again.
I haven't heard that one before. I've had more than a few of them run away, but yeah, not that kind of a deal.
This thing was just ornery. I could ride it, but man, it just didn't want me out there in the woods with a shotgun walking around shooting squirrels. It was the damnedest thing.
Was this in Missouri?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that squirrel hunting's a big thing back there. It was in Iowa as well. Geez, we had lots of squirrels.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we grew up in a relatively impoverished area. My family didn't have a whole lot.
Where was that?
It's in Bullinger County, Missouri. There's not a whole lot of industry out there. It's better than a lot of places in Missouri, but it's a lot higher on the marijuana sales than new car sales.
My mother's family's from Camden.
That's further up toward the center of the state.
Yeah, that's closer to Lake the Ozarks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we ate a lot of squirrel. My grandfather, I'd kill a couple squirrels, go over to my grandma and make us squirrels and dumplings and squirrels and gravy. And, I never thought anything.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Yeah, I never thought anything about it. And
I preferred them shot with a rifle with a 22 because you didn't have to spit any BBs out. But
yeah, I know. But I was a bad shot when I was a kid.
I
was shooting with a 22 now.
I was a real good shot, but
I was small enough that I needed to have a 20 gauge shotgun with light loads. But now we are 22 dedicated to shooting those. But that's still how I get my squirrel dubbing in the wintertime. It's great, and we still eat them. The kids don't know any different. At least they didn't when they were younger. Now they like it, so it's okay. But
as long as you do a good job of skinning them and don't have any of that dubbing in the meat, it's good.
That is and even with, and I know a lot of people that deer hunt and they're like, oh, well, you use deer hair to tie flies. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not, you can use the tail off a deer you get. But, a lot of people try to source too much of their own stuff and you wind up really kind of sketchy on it. But yeah, cleaning deer and cleaning squirrel and everything else, you've always got to watch out for all that dubbing and hair that gets on there.
One of the many jobs that I had as I wandered through life was as a butcher. And one of them was in a commercial locker plant where people would bring their animals in to have them processed.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I'll tell you what, the messed up slate that you had to work with sometimes is pretty bad. The easiest way to put it.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
So you asked us what our favorite fly to tie or fish with. I need both of you to answer now.
Well, I like to tie the royal wolf, but I think I probably prefer. I really like to. Well, I like to fish with the royal wolf, but I think I like a stimulator. I like to go after cutthroat with a stimulator on the Lochsaw River between Idaho and Montana. That is living.
Pretty darn good. Yeah, that's
cool.
And there's these great big huge rocks with big pools of water, and there's a cutthroat down there. You just know he's there. He's not coming up. So the challenge is to use your stimulator and get him to come up and take the fly. It's fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. That's got to be an amazing thing to do.
And yours?
My favorite fly to tie is a humpy, a hairwing humpy, and my second favorite would probably be any of the Wonder Wing series that we wrote a book on that too. And my favorite fly to fish is probably the Renegade.
Yeah. So I think we're all pretty well consistent with the flies we like and the styles we like. I mean, it sounds, obviously mine are a little bit larger and for warm water, but I think you three are all on a really similar page.
Yeah, it's, one of the things about the small flies, and I'll just tell you a guide story, if you will. I had this father and son that wanted to fish Slough Creek in Yellowstone Park. And I said, okay, I'll take it. But it's been hit a lot by anglers because this is later in the season. And I said, we'll do the best. He says, well, I've got some really itty bitties with 7X tippet that I want to try. So I said, okay, I'll take you there. And so we go to Slough Creek, and there's huge fish just up there. And he'd cast his fly out. He would come down. They'd come up and look at it, and they'd right back to the bottom. And after about 4 hours of that, I said, George, would you like to catch some fish? Yeah, I sure would. I said, well, these fish have seen every size 20 that's possibly known to man on 7X tippet. Here, let me show you something here. Let's get that 7X tippet cut off. So I cut him back to 3X. And I got a number 4 black zonker out. The first swing through the pool, and bam, the fish was into it. That fish hadn't seen a black zonker all year. But he had seen every size 20 no matter what, that man could dream up. So one of the things about fishing as a guide anyway is sometimes you show them something different than what they've been seeing. It don't even have to be a lot. But that was just one example. That was a huge difference. But that was I use that example a lot with people. And another thing that I noticed that it's showing them something different. Back in the late 80s when they introduced Crystal Flash the first time. You guys may or may not remember it, but anyway, it was a big thing for those of us guiding some of the rivers here in the West. I said, wow, these woolly buggers with Crystal Flash in them were, wow, you just couldn't beat them. They would beat the regular woolly bugger all hollow. And that lasted for about 3 years, and then they weren't any better than the others were. You had to come up with something else that's new. It's kind of like, the last few years, a fly called the Purple Haze has been kind of well known. And all it is an atom with a purple body. What do? You show the fish something different.
Right. Well, I think Adam will agree with me. There's a bug that I've been tying lately, and it's called a lightning bug. Tim Campsa ties it. But all it is it's a midge. It's a zebra midge. Just instead of having a thread body, it's got a ribbon or a tinsel body. It's brighter. It's a silver on silver, or a blue on silver, or a blue and black, and it's gold on, and it's the same basic premise for tying the fly. Yeah, you put a little peacock around the neck and you're done, but it's a zebra midge, but it's a different color.
We do some double magic stuff from LaFontaine's theory, and the idea is that antron is a trilobal material that refracts light differently. And so from what I read of his, he would get divers down in the water to watch how the fish would react to what they were tying. And sometimes it refracts light so that it almost looks like a shuck as the bug is starting to hatch and come up. So we do put some antron in some of our flies sometimes, and that seems to, especially in a lower light situation, we do that. And then we also, if you look at the color scale, opposite, like red and green, have a funny effect on each other. So when you put a red in a green environment, it looks like gray and it kind of doesn't look good. But if you put green in green, they can see it. So when the ambient light is green, we try to fish with a more greener or yellow fly, and in red, we try to stay with an orange or a more red fly. And that seems to help some.
That's part of the LaFontaine theory of attraction, of basically have at least one color in your fly that matches the environment.
Yeah. Well, I fish a lot of olives, but they're dark olives. So if it's overcast, olives and blacks are what I'm going to throw. And if it's sunny, I'm going to throw something reflective, shiny, or white.
Sure.
Yeah.
And maybe something with high contrast. Maybe something silver with black wire. And that contrast then seems to help a little bit. I don't trout fish as much as I should to be an expert on it. But I do know that, smallmouth who see a little bit less color than trout, color to them, black and white are the big two colors. If it's either dark or it's bright, and that's it.
Well, don't you think that smallmouth like some action too? We often do a articulating fly.
Oh, it's all about the action. Yeah, it's all action. Everything. It's all. They wake up mad. They go to bed mad. They're mad all day long.
Yeah, that's an aggressive.
And
we fish those in the Snake River, and that's kind of one of the fun things we like to do.
Yeah, that's one thing I've got to get Adam to do this summer is to go smallie fishing with me because. Yeah, he's got to go a couple rods up and wait to get on some of the pigs I'm going to throw him into.
In other words, he's going to have to get up into the 7 through 9 weights instead of the 3 to whatever he's been fishing.
Yeah, I'm going to have to give him an 8 weight to throw his first time because I damn near broke my 4 weight about 2 weeks ago.
Oh dear! And you were fishing?
Oh yeah, I didn't anticipate fish that big and water that skinny.
Where were you fishing?
Oh, that's good.
I was fishing Sinking Creek in Missouri. And I knew it was a protected smallmouth stream, but it's skinny water. It's really skinny water. And I got into a hole, and the fish that almost broke my rod was being chased by a fish about twice that size. It was also a smallmouth bass.
Whoa.
So yeah, the 14-incher that nearly broke mine was, it was the thing chasing it was huge. I mean, it was just, it didn't even look like I couldn't. It looked more like one of those Oscars that you have in those giant aquariums. The smallmouth, it was just ginormous. Yeah, you've got to, and that's one thing. And I was going to ask you guys this because you guys have a lot of experience fishing and fly fishing. And I know Adam and I are we fish where we know to fish and where we go. And if we're lucky, we hit the salt once a year, once every 2 years. And, just the Midwest is the Midwest. What is your rod weight when you're fishing? How do you determine which weight rod you're going to take to a trout stream?
The one that's easiest to get out of the truck. You think I'm joking? Yeah, it's not. No, we carry right now. We're getting ready to leave on Wednesday on a fishing trip. If we don't get burned out by the heat, and we've got a 5 weight and a 7 weight. And the only time we get the 9 weights out is when we know we're going to go steelhead fishing, and they cover our needs just fine. I don't get too fired up about real lightweight rods or real heavyweight. I just want something heavy enough to land the fish quickly, so I don't stress it too much if I plan on turning it loose. If I don't plan on turning it loose, then that doesn't make any difference. But
we like to fish for crappie.
The favorite fish,
That's
crappie
one
or
of
bluegill.
and that's a fish that we keep and eat.
Yeah.
Well, there's only one fish that tastes better.
What's that?
Walleye.
Oh,
Great too.
I don't.
I've never tasted walleye.
Well, I had them when I was in Iowa, but I never caught one on a fly rod, and except for a few times with a spin rod in Iowa, I've never caught one. But boy, they're sure good to eat.
Yeah.
Well, I'll send you some photos if I pull some out next week.
Okay. By the way, when we contacted you, a couple of days ago, you said you're getting ready to go fishing this weekend, or did you go?
Going fishing tomorrow, and then next week I'll be down walleye fly fishing, smallmouth bass and walleye fly fishing down in Arkansas.
For sure. Yeah.
That's great.
And so Doug from Fly Tires Dungeon, I was telling him, so he hooked me up with some bigger flies or bigger hooks to use for those walleye. And so I'm going to be taking his gator tails in black and using some NK dubbing around the throat of that dragon to sort of flare it out and get some movement in black with a little bit of red for the evening fishing. I think the black will do best in the evening fishing in the deep holes.
Yep.
Now, are you going out on a boat? How are you getting to those?
Well, they have kayaks there where we're staying. They have kayaks they'll take us wherever we want to go. And they have golf carts wherever we want to go. And our cabin's 20 feet from the river.
Okay, cool.
So I'll probably just wade down of an evening and make my wife stand there and hold the flashlight. She wanted to go.
That's great.
I didn't invite her to join me on my fishing trip.
Oh, this isn't a stolen fishing trip along with taking the family somewhere. This is where you're actually going fishing and they came along or coming.
Yeah, this is along? Like my wife said, hey, the two of us need to go somewhere. Where do you want to go? And I said, hey, I want to go fishing. And then she found this place and I said, you still want to go? I was surprised when she said she was.
All I can say
I guess she's going to go.
Find out how far it is from the nearest store that takes credit cards.
Yeah, it's a long way.
Oh, okay. Well, then you're good. It's better to have a wife like I do that rows a drift boat as good as most guys and probably outfishes me most of the time too.
Well, I have a feeling my wife will be drinking me under the table on the float trips. So I've laid off a little bit, and I'm getting to be kind of a lightweight now. So
lightweight.
But yeah, it's going to be exciting. Now I'm going tomorrow down to Spring River, and I'm going to throw some scuds that I tied, some Rainbow Warriors, some midges, a bunch of size 16, some Griffiths gnats if I get down there early enough for top water. So my trip tomorrow is about 7 hours of just testing out the flies that I've tied this winter.
So when you have to go back to school?
I don't have to. If I want to get paid, I need to go back in August.
Oh, Jesus! I thought I was going to learn something more about shutdown or something. Oh, okay.
No, I don't have to go back. I mean, the kids would probably rather I didn't.
So what do you teach?
English literature, actually American literature mainly. I teach American literature, and then I teach American literature 1 and American literature 2, and then speech and debate and stuff like that. I got a section of PE with 7th graders, so we play dodgeball a lot. Me against all of them.
So that when you say you're teaching school, it's grade school or
no, high school. So it's high school, 7th grade PE, and then juniors and sophomores.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. So whenever they make me mad, we go to the gym and we play dodgeball too.
Ah, got it.
So yeah.
I don't like dodgeball.
Well, they don't after they play with me.
I'm sure.
I make them stand there blindfolded.
Oh,
They shape up real quick.
But it's like fishing. You've got to anticipate the strike.
I can.
I used to teach junior high.
Yeah. Well, there's a special place for people like you.
Yeah. I could get up on that and counseled instead. It was a lot easier.
You can walk by and smell the junior high hall. Nothing but hormones and body odor.
That's right. And there's some days those boys, their hormones are so bad, you don't even expect them to do anything productive. If you could just keep them from doing something bad, you won. You won the
that's
day.
a good day. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good day.
So Adam is our resident trout fly guy. What are your questions for these two living legends in the fly tying industry?
Yeah, I know we're cranking down on time. I was going to ask, because I've been tying a lot of foam-bodied flies. I have my own little fly shop that I do online. I've been getting some orders for those, so I'm curious what your experience is with tying different types with foam-bodied. Is there a particular type of fly that you prefer? When you talk like hopper, dropper, whatnot, when you talk about tying something like that, what's your go-to?
We do that. Let me ask you a question. And I'm not trying. This is not a trick question. Are you wrapping your foam bodies so that they make a pretty smooth-looking body?
Yeah. I mean, so what I've been using is it's a foam cutter from River Road Creation. So it's a specific type of foam pattern that when you fold it over, it gives it almost like a popper effect to it. So that's the particular one I've been using.
Got it.
So yeah, it's meant to have that smooth, rounded out edge at the top.
Right. Well,
but you're not wrapping the foam. You're just folding it over.
You're not taking a strip of foam and wrapping it.
Yeah, he's wrapping thread around it.
Yeah, to hold
but he's not wrapping the foam.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, he's not. He's not. Yeah, I'm sorry, I misunderstood that.
Well, did you know that if you take a strip of foam and tie it on just like you were going to wrap chenille, but you're wrapping foam, and you wrap it so it looks nice and smooth, you're pulling and stretching that, you're forcing the air out of it, and your fly will actually sink. That there is a way to wrap foam so that it won't sink. I'm sorry? I didn't catch that last part.
I see what you're saying now. So dragging the audio. So, no, that makes total sense. You can wrap it so tight that you essentially sink your fly. Yeah, you bet.
Exactly. And that's one of the things we teach in one of our classes in our Easy Trout Flies book. When we talk about it at great length, it's on a hopper with a foam body, a wrap foam body. And it's the way you don't wrap it. You actually push it around with your finger to get it around the hook so that you're not mashing the air out of it.
There's one of the ladies that we've become recently, clients that we've become acquainted with, has one of those cricket machines. You know what that is?
Mm-hmm.
And she's been cutting foam bodies,
I know
dye floor out of her cricket. And I've got enough to do, but I'm tempted to get one of those machines and play with it.
Can you email me that information, because my sister-in-law has one, and I would be interested to see what you're doing with it and how you're doing it.
We're not. It's just one of the people that we did a Zoom class with was telling us that they're doing it.
And I thought you'd been in contact with her since then about how to do it.
No, we're trying to decide if we want to add another thing to our plate that's already full.
What she does though is she has patterns, and she just has multiple patterns, and she just runs them through the machine. And I need to find out some more about it, but she has some kind of a foam that you can peel off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what she's using.
So like I've got mine right here, so I have to do mine each individually. So when I push down on the foam, so that cricket machine probably puts out 20 or 30 of those at a time, where I'm doing every single individual punch.
And it's all computerized, so you put the pattern in by the computer.
Yeah.
Adam's lying. He's got 3 of those cutters, and his wife and 2 kids sit around all day in the summer and cut those bodies out for him.
Okay, it's the truth is starting to come out now. Slave labor is no child labor. That's what it is. Yes,
child labor.
My kids don't get a summer vacation. No.
His kids can tie the best woolly buggers.
All right.
But you actually have a fly shop, is that right?
Yeah, just something I do online. So I have a handful of different selections that I put out there, and then I can tie custom stuff if people want me to as well.
That's where we are now too. We did the real commercial stuff for years and years, but now that we're in our advanced years, we're picking the things that we want to do a little bit more, and not doing the things we don't want to do quite as much. And tying large quantities of thousands of dozens of flies for a fly shop probably is not what we do so much anymore.
And I don't try George Anderson's stonefly anymore, for anybody, no matter how much money you want to pay.
That's one of the more popular flies in Montana, and she hates it. And she was known as Miss Stonefly for years because every fly shop said, we'll get Gretchen to tie our stoneflies. And I'd say, I'm not tying them. And they'd say, well, we'll pay you. And they kept raising the price. And finally I said, I don't care what you pay.
Oh, that's too
well, I will say this. I will, when I'm going for like Christmas gifts and stuff, I will order flies from Adam that I don't want to tie, especially like Copper Johns. And there's the other one that has the white goose by it and the brown goose by it. And it's like, it's just easier.
Prince Nip.
Yeah, Prince Nip. It's just easier for me to have Adam do that than to buy, and his look better than mine.
Hard to tie.
What's that?
I just don't want to buy the extra goose biots. I've got enough on my table. I don't know what else I'd use them for. I mean, honestly, is there anything else you use goose biots for other than a Prince Nip?
You know, I got
there's a few other things, but not much.
Yeah, I'll see if I can explain this. My wife went to Denver. It was last summer to visit some family, and she popped into a golden fly shop and just bought a couple different flies to bring back to me as a gift. And one of them, I don't even know what it's imitating, but it had goose biots, rubber legs, an orange bead head, and it was wrapped in like a gray dubbing with a wire. I have no idea what it's imitating, but it consisted of all those. And I threw that for trout in Missouri. And I was catching so many trout with that particular fly. I've tried to imitate it and retie my own with my own materials, but I don't know what it exactly is supposed to be, but it was certainly working. I'll tell you that.
Adam, it's something different.
That's it.
Remember we talked a little while ago about something different?
Yes, you're right, Al. Yeah, you bet.
It sounds like one that. It sounds like one of the ones that Adam Ludwig ties. You might get a hold of him.
That's a good
Or
point.
not Adam, Kyle Ludwig.
Kyle Ludwig, yeah.
Kyle Ludwig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do your kids and wife fish?
So what?
Yeah. Do our kids and wives fish? My
kids, 2 of my 3 do.
Yeah. Yeah. My oldest is 12, and so she ties flies with me every once in a while. She was really into it about 2 years ago, but she'll still tie. She likes to fly fish, and my 2 youngest are 7 and 5, so we'll go out on the water. But they're if you don't catch a fish within the first 30 seconds, they're out. They're ready to move on to something else.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, my 16-year-old makes fun of her boyfriend because he doesn't fly fish.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. She's a little bit of an asshole. I think she takes after her mom because I would never be like that.
Sure.
But she is busting his chops 24/7 because he doesn't fly fish.
Wow.
And so he's taught her to use a bait caster, which, I mean, I had shown her how to use one, and he was really impressed with her ability to use it. But then he's like, so you can use a spin caster, a bait caster, and a fly rod. And she's like, yup. He's like, okay, well, yeah. She's got him beat. And my son, who's 11, he's a spin cast guy. He doesn't want to mess with the fly fishing. He wants to get it out there. He wants to catch bluegill, and he wants to catch every bluegill in the pond. He's a quantity, not quality guy.
Yeah, we've got 3 sons, and they all have all of the equipment. They all have been shown how to do it, and they probably have done it once.
Yeah.
Well, Brian's done it more than that.
Twice.
Yeah.
Well, he got to go fly fishing saltwater, remember?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Which I've never done, but yeah. Oh, they're out.
My 16-year-old has managed to lay claim to my nicest fly rod, my nicest 22, my nicest shotgun. Anything that is the nicest that I have is now hers. So she'll go shoot skeet. She wants to use my nice over and under. She's going fly fishing. She wants to use my nicest fly rod.
So when you're shooting skeet, what are you using?
I've got a nicer over and under. A lot of people wouldn't think that it's a nice gun. It's been rebranded about 4 times. But honestly, it was a Bacale when I got it. It was a cheaper over and under, very beautiful etching, but it's made to a standard. And again, I mean, I've beaten a lot of guys that are shooting red labels and things like that. And a lot of guys, this gun's a shorter barrel. A lot of guys can't swing it as well. But I really like it. I've duck hunted with it. I've turkey hunted with it. I've done everything with it. I've got 3 brand new shotguns sitting in the safe that I've never touched. And I just take that over and under everywhere I go. So
my over and under is a Winchester 101. And I have a single barrel 101 and a Browning BT99 is what my trap gun is.
Yeah. And those are nice guns. And, I think, I think it's my nicest shotgun simply, and it may be because I've worked it so much. It opens smooth. It works action smooth. It wasn't the most expensive, but it's by golly the nicest one in the collection for sporting clays is what I shoot. So
that's one thing I haven't done. I shot mostly trap and a little bit of doubles on with the 2-barrel or the double barrel shotgun, but I have never shot skeet or sporting clays. It sounds like it'd be fun.
Sporting clays is fun because you get rabbits that run along the ground.
So
they'll throw the launcher. They'll throw the launcher and they'll run along the ground. When they hit stuff, they'll pop up.
Oh, wow.
And then you'll get teal that are coming toward you. So it's a variety. It's not like one house in trap or 2 houses in skeet.
Yep.
You don't even know where the thrower is. Sometimes you just know where the cut lines are on the ground for the rabbits. And you know it's going to be teal. So they're going to be coming in hard and fast to you. Which makes it a lot more interesting, in my opinion.
So let me ask you, why are you not also doing a podcast on sporting clays?
I don't shoot nearly as much as I used to. I used to shoot sporting clays every weekend. I used to shoot USPSA handgun and 3-gun every weekend. And then having kids and the price of primers and powder.
Yeah. I totally
just stopped.
That. It's we were at Cabela's today to get some camp gear for the trip that we got coming up later this week, and I thought, well, I'll just pop in and see what's going on in the ammunition department, see if there's anything there. Yeah. And the shelves were pretty bare, and what was there cost a lot.
Yeah.
I can tie a lot of flies for what I can buy a case of shotgun shells.
Oh boy, yeah, for sure.
And I wound up, it came down to that, a couple other things in my life. Wound up getting a kayak. I couldn't wade fish very much because I've had 3 knee surgeries and an ankle surgery. And I'm not even that fat, which is kind of odd. But I started kayak fishing because I can kayak and then I can stop and fish, and then I can kayak, and then I can stop and fish, and it's nice, and I like it, and I can drink beer, and it's a good time. And so I sort of gave up on a lot of the shooting sports other than just fun and hunting.
You can shoot a shotgun from a kayak too.
I've been shot at in a kayak.
Is that what I said? Shot at it? I thought you could shoot a shotgun. Okay, good.
Yeah, come around the corner one day. Some old boys were shooting skeet over the river. Came around the corner, me and my buddy, and boom! And the trees above us just started. They were throwing skeet over the river.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
that don't sound real good.
Well, there was almost some fire returned. But that's a whole nother story about guys that have been in the military for 20 years. They tend to really dislike being shot at.
You've been in the military for 20 years?
No, my friend that was with me had.
Oh, okay, got it.
He was about to return fire.
His instincts probably kicked in.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was pulling out the sidearm and dropping off the edge of the kayak, ready to engage. He was not going to fool around with that shit. But yeah,
No comment.
I don't think I'd like to be shot at.
Yeah.
It's no fun. Let me tell you for sure.
It's not fun. It's not fun at all.
No, it's they make it look kind of glorious, and they got music playing in the background and all this kind of stuff in the movies. But in real life, when it happens, it doesn't. I never found any music playing when the bullets were whining around.
Yeah, no. Getting shot at is not a good time. Now shooting guns while playing music, that is fun.
Yeah, but there's usually some beer thrown into the deal too. So I mean, after a few beers, everything's fun.
Well, you pump up the speakers, you drink a couple of beers, you put out the targets, the range is safe, and you pull out the twin 45s, you start popping those USPSA targets, drop the 45s, pick up the AR, move to the shotgun, hit the steel, hit the skeet, hit the steel, hit the skeet.
Wow. Okay.
That's like a music video.
Yeah, it sounds like it's got a steady.
We just go out to the desert and shoot.
Well, I don't have any desert. We have 1,000-yard ranges up here.
Oh yeah,
shooting from hill to hill.
We have the National Guard practice range, and when the National Guard isn't out there, which is all the time, then the public gets to go out there. And Gretchen and I set up courses where you move and shoot and move and shoot and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, but just to kind of practice. I guess keep ourselves out of trouble.
If you're going to own one, you ought to know how to use one.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I've been teaching her a little bit about how to use one, and I'm pretty good with one.
Should I tell them about my purchase today?
No. Probably not a good idea. No.
Okay.
We don't know that their audience is going to be 50% one way and 50% the other way.
Oh well.
Oh no, they're pretty much, they know what they're getting into when they get onto this podcast.
You going to tell them what the initials are?
Oh, B. See, what is it? BAM.
Did you buy a BMF?
No,
Did you buy a BMF?
No, it's BAT, isn't it BAT? No, what is it?
It doesn't make any difference. She bought a purse that is a handgun purse.
Oh, it's so cool.
Oh, you bought a conceal and carry purse.
Yes.
Yeah. Now I'm going to tell you something. I respect everybody's right to carry a firearm that knows how to use it.
Yeah, you bet.
Well, when we travel, we're old people, and people look at old people and think you're vulnerable.
You're a target.
So
Sure.
When we travel, we do like to.
Well, people look at Adam's flat bill hat, and he's a target.
Yeah, of course. So we just try not to be
It's
a
pretty
target.
face. It's a lot of attraction.
Yeah. And what's a shame is I know all the news media is on Chicago, and I was talking to a guy from Chicago, and he's like, yeah, but it's sort of all in one area. And when you drill down into the statistics, St. Louis is number 1 per capita for homicides, and I'm 2 hours south of St. Louis.
Whoa.
I have quit driving to the fly shop. I won't drive up to the fly shop because in order to get there, I've got to go through a pretty sketchy part of town.
Is that where we were that day? Yeah, we've been there, done that, and it was uncomfortable.
Yeah. And who wants to go spend their money when you don't feel safe?
Yeah.
That's very true. And, that we had this interesting, one of the things that's really interesting about COVID and the things that has happened in the last year is that we learned alternate ways to get things done because we still needed food and things that we normally go out and get and you couldn't go out and get. But Amazon would deliver them. And it's pretty amazing. There's things about Amazon that I love. There's things about Amazon that I don't love. But there's one thing about them. If you need something, you can drive around town looking for the darn thing, whatever it might be. Or you can just make 3 clicks on Amazon and it's there sitting on the doorstep tomorrow. Literally tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the word.
And I don't know, Adam, if you're using Dooley Fly Fishing, say 15% with promo code kayak. over at dooleyflyfishing.com. I don't know if you're using them, but I use them for all my flies stuff anymore because I would rather call Nick on the phone and tell him what I'm tying than to drive up to St. Louis to one of the 2 stores up there.
Absolutely.
Just because of the crime.
That's Dooley online?
Dooley Fly Fishing.
Is that spelled D-U-L-L-Y?
It's D-O-O-L-E-Y.
Okay.
It's Nick Dooley.
Yeah, we'll have to look.
Yeah, you can save 15% on all your purchases with promo code Kayak.
All right.
And I'm sure he'd love to talk to you guys. He was a EMT, and he had an online fly shop, and he quit his job as an EMT to open up a full-time fly shop there in Quincy, Illinois. And he is really a great guy, but it's dooleyflyfishing.com.
Okay.
Save 15% with promo code Kayak. We really ought to get more free stuff from him.
You really should.
When I say more, I mean any. That's what.
The 15% doesn't really make a lot of difference to us because being in the business, we probably do a lot better than that.
But
I want to know more about this Dooley.
Sometimes we try to find places that have things so that sometimes when we're teaching a class, we have people that have trouble finding material. So we like to keep in touch with these online shops. So if they're looking for material, we generally like to know who might have it. So we'll check them out.
Yeah, and all they got, and anybody, I mean, it's not, 15% at some places for me is I need to go straight to the manufacturer and get my discount for the podcast.
Yep.
Other places, 15%, man, that's 15%, and that's great for everybody.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good chunk, but,
it is.
It's, you go to Cutthroat. I don't know if you guys use Cutthroat Leaders or not out of Idaho. We got a 15% discount with those guys with kayak.
We'll look at them.
So that works out really well too.
We manufacture our own leaders. We do all furled leaders. Use electric drill to make them.
Oh, okay. Well, I need to hook you up with Mike. Then he does Cutthroat Leaders, and they're all furled, and I love them.
That rings a bell for some reason. I probably run across him at a show or something because we've traveled the show circuit. Well, for me, since 1978, I've been on the show circuit in one form or another. So, anyway, it's about
Mike.
I'm sure we know
You've
him.
met Mike.
Yeah.
I'm sure you are. He's like Doug and Rick and Dennis. Everybody knows when you're in the industry, and I found this out too, and Adam as well. And don't make me speak for you, Adam, but we've met so many people in the industry.
It's a small group, really.
We traveled it worldwide, and let me tell you what, when you get right down to it, the really hardcore professionals in the fly fishing industry is probably less than 15,000 worldwide. It's a really small group compared to you picked, like bass anglers. Just the bass angler hardcore group in the United States alone is probably close to 1 million. But in fly fishing, I would say worldwide, 15,000 in the professional area, in the areas that you and I are.
Yeah, I would agree. Adam, you haven't talked much at all. Do something, buddy.
I'm taking it all in. I mean, this has been a fantastic episode. I've really enjoyed everything. It's been good just to kind of chit-chat about fly tying, but then also experiences too. So I feel more of like an audience member than I do anything else right now, but it's been great.
Well, if at any point in the future, guys, you would want to have a segment more concentrated on fly tying where we can actually share some fly tying tips and tricks based on over 100 years of experience between us, we have a few.
Well, let's schedule the first Monday in August. How's that?
First Monday. Let's get towards the fall a little bit, if we could.
Oh, well, everybody says fall.
September is off the calendar. I'm going fishing in September.
Okay, okay.
August is better because it's too hot to fish.
Okay, August is fine. We have one coming up. I have a Project Healing Waters thing coming up in August. So to answer that question.
Yeah.
Let's you chat for a minute.
We'll work around it. We'll email it. We'll email back and forth. We'll email around it because this has been great.
It's hard in August, and the fish. You can't go to the Yellowstone. It's hoot owl, so tie flies.
Now, do you guys know Jack?
Jack.
Rick introduced me to Jack. Dennis. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Jack's an old buddy of ours from way back. Should
we get you guys and Jack on here together?
Well,
and then just let you guys talk?
Well, no. Neither one of it. He couldn't, and we couldn't get a word in edgewise. No, you guys wouldn't get a word in edgewise.
That's what I'm saying. We'll just drop our stuff off. We'll just let you guys chat for a couple hours.
That would be an absolute kick in the butt. Yeah,
maybe we'll get Rick on here too. We'll go for a 4-hour podcast.
You are you in August? When were you talking about in August?
Oh, maybe the first Monday, and then we'll drop it the second Monday.
Okay,
I have no idea what day it is. I'm just throwing. You just said you were willing to come back, and I'm just throwing out dates.
Okay, well, it's the 2nd or the 9th. We could come back for either or.
All right, Adam, you pick it out, buddy. When we got them on the line, we got a hook. We got to set that hook because most people don't come back after their first episode.
Hey, the second's better for me. I'm down in Galveston on the 9th. So the second.
All right, yeah, let's do the second. So it'll drop on the 9th. It'll drop on YouTube on the 9th, and it'll drop on the podcast on the 10th. If you guys liked what you heard, then you can come back and listen to some more.
That sounds like fun. Now we're going to pretty much focus on this one more than a chit chat thing, more of a flying tips and tricks sort of a thing.
Yeah, and if what we'll do, if it doesn't, who cares what the listeners and what hell, they're not paying us any money. We'll tie some flies on air.
Okay, that was the idea. What we do, though, there's a certain amount of preparation that we need to do. We're looking at an hour presentation, and we need to have both of us. Is that what we're looking at, or something longer?
Yeah. No, we can do 2 hours if you want to. We got all the time in the world, man.
Okay, well, let's look at an hour and a half, and both Gretchen and I will make presentations.
We can start at 9 a.m. and go until I run out of memory. And I'll even buy some more storage if I have to.
I was going to say, I had a wise comment in that regard, but we won't say anything. So.
About a 6-pack, I run out of memory. I'm talking about the computer memory.
Yeah, okay, got it. Okay, I'm putting down the second as we'll call it podcast.
Yeah, there you go. And then that'll be great for our YouTube viewers because if you go to the Kayak Flyer YouTube page, you guys can find us on there and you can watch my fly tying tutorials. And then Al, you and Gretchen have your own channel on YouTube as well.
Yeah, we do. It's if anybody's interested, they can go to YouTube, go into the search engine and just type Al Beatty channel and it'll take you there.
Yep. And then you've got btsflyfishing.com and albeatty2@gmail.com to reach out to Al. And of course, Adam is Latrell Fly Fishing.
Yep, Latrell's Fly Fishing, Fly Shop.
I always forget the S. Latrell's Fly Fishing. You can find him on Etsy if you want to buy some trout flies made in the Kansas City area. He put sauce on his flies. I put dry rub on mine.
I put bug stink on mine, so they cover up my stuff.
We have a barbecue joke running on what's better, Kansas City or Memphis style.
Oh, actually, WD-40 is pretty good too. So
I've been thinking about tying one of those flies. That WD-40 looks good.
The fly is the WD-40. The stuff you put on them.
Oh, okay.
That WD-40 has been something the bass guys have been using on their plugs and worms for a long time.
You're shitting me.
No kidding.
I am not. No, I'm not.
I got a whole can of it up here. I got a whole can of it right up there.
I put it on my sport hinges. Never would have thought to put it on my bass lures.
Take trout. I'm throwing it on some trout flies tomorrow.
Attracting smell to the fish.
It stinks.
I know that, but what fish eats stinks as far as I'm concerned anyway. So,
anything we want to talk about before we get out of here, guys? I know I've kept you past your bedtime.
No,
you got to get up and work in the garden in the morning.
Yeah,
I'm gardened out right now.
yeah. We got of all things, we have our yearly dentist appointment tomorrow morning, so that'll be so much fun.
There you go.
You'd rather be in the garden.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I guess we're about ready to sign off if you guys are.
Well, it's been a pleasure speaking with both of you, and I look forward to the 2nd of August where we really get into the nitty-gritty on some fly tying, some tips and tricks. That's going to be fun.
How did we just lose their...
Oh, they lost their audio.
I just lost their audio. I don't know what happened, but I just lost your audio. Yeah. You just dropped out of nothing. So, well, for Gretchen and Al, since they dropped off, I guess that's the best time to sign off, guys. We're going to go ahead and sign out. You two stay here with us. Adam, you stay here with us, and we will talk to you guys all next week with Kayak Flyer.